So we're really happy to be here, and I'm excited because actually a couple of these ladies, well, 2 out of the 2 ladies, both of them, all 2, are in my FEM mentorship, and FEM is Female Empowered Moneymakers. How many of you would like to make more money? Say yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're in the right place, and sales equals making money. I believe actually that sales is about transformation. Sales is really about helping people, because if you don't close the sale, then they don't get your help. And I'm sure you're basically selling software, right? Okay, not basically. You are selling software. Okay, does it help them? Yes. Absolutely. So if you don't make the offer, if you don't make the sale, I feel like you are robbing them of the services that you provide and the transformational value that you can give them. So that's why I believe that sales is so important. And I'm really happy to have Bree here. This is Bree Sedano over here. And Jess Weaver. And Tony Perzo. Okay, he's not in my FEM mentorship, but give him a big hand anyway. Awesome. Big hand. Come on, we have to make sound really loud. There we go. That's spirit. I know we just had lunch, so it will weigh you down. Okay, so what I'm assuming that you want to know is how did they do it? Where were they before? Some of the challenges that they may have experienced so that you guys can take this and not only have the tools and the strategies, but also build the belief. And what I mean by that, if you think about really how you get success, it has to do with your beliefs, right? Beliefs influence your behaviors, which influences your success. So I believe all of this is really important, and that's why it's so nice to hear the stories of the success as well, not just the strategies. So we'll delve into that. Let's start with what you do, and if you can say a little bit about where you were before, like way back when you were struggling in business.
So I'm a financial advisor. I typically work, now I work with working moms, and I just help them get their financial stuff straightened out. That's kind of my deal. But before, I used to manage assets, and I figured out how to fix an awful lot of student loan problems, so I was kind of just doing that.
So then the thing about Bree, I talk about her in my new book, and she's very nonchalant about things. Like, yeah, I just kind of talk to people, and I was like, yeah, why don't we do this? How many of you feel like sometimes when you talk to someone and you have a sales opportunity, you sometimes just are kind of nonchalant about it, and you're not really sure exactly what to drive them to? Okay, sometimes? Some of you yes, some of you no. Okay, well, sometimes when you don't have that clarity, you don't know exactly what the next step is, then you often could lose the sale. So one of the things that Bree was struggling with, she had a lot of confidence, and she knew that what she did was definitely helping people, and she knew that it would give them a transformation. But when it came to a process, a sales system, she didn't really have one. And then she didn't know how to price her services. And so she was kind of like, oh, well, I help you get rid of student loans, so how about, I don't know, $350? And then sometimes she would help people get rid of a $300,000 student loan.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And then she didn't return my phone call. And then I hired Robyn.
The rest is history. Cool. So we'll go more into that. But that was kind of the before, charging, whatever, not really knowing exactly the system, not knowing what to drive them to next. And then can I say your income, what it was before? Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
So it was about 45. I happen to know their story, so you're going to have to be vulnerable all on your own.
That's fine.
But she was making about $4,500 on average per month. And we'll talk about where you came, where you went since then. But is that about accurate?
Yep,
Okay.
that's true.
Cool. It's the truth. All right, Jess.
I'm Jessica Weaver. I'm also a financial advisor. And before, I didn't really have a niche. I didn't know who I was targeting. Now I focus on women going through a major life transition, divorce, career change, retirement, losing a spouse. And I help them put the focus back on them and their needs and wants and come out of that transition stronger and more in control with their money. I've been in the business about 7 years. For about 5-6 years, I didn't have any sales training. I was kind of just floundering around. I didn't know what to guide people to once they came into my office or once I got them on the phone. So it was very hard to get people to make that turn into becoming clients.
Okay, cool. And do you remember your income-ish? Since I'm a numbers person, I like to know the transformation. So do you remember what you're making about on a monthly basis?
Before?
Yeah.
FEM was in between 10 and 12,000 a month.
Gross.
Yes.
Or net. Okay, cool. All right, Tony, give us your story, man.
Okay. Well, I'm a negotiation trainer. sales trainer, but I'm in business for myself. So I'm selling every single day. I'm selling my services. I'm selling my solution to companies. Hire me, bring me in, let me train your salespeople or procurement or engineers or project managers, and let me help them not leave money on the table, make more money for you. And the thing is, with negotiation, it's not very sexy, right? It's not very attractive. And most people, it's kind of a luxury thing, right? Most people want leads. People are looking for other things before they're looking for negotiation training. So it's kind of like a luxury skill set, and most people don't even know that they need negotiation training until I show them that they need it. So it's, I've got to be very innovative. Corporate training is not an innovative, well, it can be, but it's not the most innovative of industries, but I've got to be very innovative in how I can get myself in front of decision makers and let them know that I can help them. So I can't just be sending emails and just picking up the phone and cold calling and trying to get FaceTime with people. That doesn't work for me. I need people to see me, speak, because my big differentiator is there's a lot of people who are teaching sales and negotiation, but I call myself, I'm a communicator, I'm a storyteller who just happens to speak about negotiation. So the difference between me and an academic professor, and I deal with this all the time, I just landed a Fortune 500 client, a major US bank, and they were on the fence. They were saying, well, a lot of our people, a lot of our bankers, they went to these big academic institutions, and they want to bring in some professor that they had in university to come in and do this training for us. And I had to convince them that that's the wrong move, right? If you want somebody to teach negotiation over a 4-month period, then hire a professor. But if you want someone who can make an impact and engage your salespeople in a half a day, then that's my specialty. I'm able to explain things in a way that people get and understand. So how do I do that? I think Brian was in here. You need to shut me up or I'll just talk. But Brian was in here teaching a workshop, and he was saying that he uses video to get in front of decision makers. And I'm like, I thought I was the only one doing that. So I've been able to land 2 Fortune 500 companies as clients in the last 30 days because I decided not to pick up a telephone. I decided not to send an email. I decided to shoot a 3-minute video on my iPhone, shaky, very shaky, looks very authentic. And I use persuasion science. I understand that's what I teach, so I use a little persuasion science. And I shot a personalized video. So this bank, I found out who the decision maker was, and her name was Stephanie. And I said, hey, Stephanie, you have no idea who the hell I am. Surprise, it's me on video. And laugh, hopefully. And then I go into how I can be a solution to their problems. And I understand what their problems were because I was on the phone with a bunch of their people beforehand. So I created a video, personalized video for you, Susan, not Susan, that was another company, Stephanie in the subject line. And then in the body of the email, a GIF, a 2-3 second GIF where you see me kind of moving like a robot. That all they have to do is click on that moving GIF, and then they go to a YouTube video. And I'm closing customers with these 3-minute personalized videos. And then they come back to me and they say, our salespeople should be making these videos as well. And so I don't know what the question was, but that's my
And that's who he is. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. Awesome. Okay, great. Okay, how many of you could see using video as a sales technique to attract qualified leads and to close them? Okay, great. So that's a great takeaway. Okay, perfect. So Bree, why don't you give us one of the things that you did that helped your either sales process or helped you get more clients and turn them into high-paying clients as well?
So I mapped out the way that I wanted my sales process to go. I was like Jess, I didn't really get any actual sales training in being a financial advisor, which is funny because we sell stuff as a living. But they don't teach you that. So I just started driving my leads to an actionable step, and then I'd invite them in for a meeting with me where I could figure out what their real problem was, what they really needed, and then I can sell them a package. So it was driving them to what I wanted them to go to, and then also packaging up what I was selling in a way that was more tangible and more results-based instead of product-based.
Awesome.
Is that good?
And can we share your specific results? Do you I remember them, but do you remember them? The specific financial results?
Oh, so I went from making $4,000 to making about $25,000 a month.
Boom. Okay, give her a hand for that. Okay, $4,000 to $20,000. How many of you would like to? What is that? Quadruple or more than that?
More than.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say quadruple because I don't know what comes after that. Okay, awesome. We would all like that. Awesome. Okay, so one of the things that she did, let me just break it down, is you got really clear. We call this in our training, we call it the stages of the sale. So she got clear on what to drive them to next. Okay, so what I find a lot of people come to me and they're not clear about what the next step is. So there's a lot of follow-up. A lot of chasing your prospects. So if you can get that lead and you can reel them in and you have a conversation, and then sometimes it ends up being to go to a cup of coffee or having them meet with you or something like that, but you're not totally clear on the next step or how to close them to the next step. And so then it's like, okay, I'll follow up, and then it's a follow-up, and then back and forth, and then follow-up. Has anyone ever experienced that? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So we try to nick that in the bud by having an exact process in each of those steps and knowing exactly what you're driving them to. So the takeaway is to know, like, what is that next step, and then what's the best system to get them there. Okay, so we'll start with there. Can you add to that as far as the system itself? Maybe you can give them, Jess?
Yeah, that was going to be my answer.
Oh, perfect. Good. Take it away, Jess.
Yeah, before we would have people come into our office, 3, 4, 5 times and just kind of hope they would bring up the topic of working with us, how they could work with us in some capacity. So instead now I get them on the phone. I know exactly where I'm leading them to, from the phone to a session in our office, and then from there to how we can best serve them, how we can work with them. And just by having those 3 easy steps is amazing. You know exactly what you're doing. I'm more confident once I get them on the phone or in the office. I know where I'm leading them to. And what I was going to say after she took my answer was, for me, the worst feeling is having somebody come in knowing how much you can help them, and that if they don't work with you, then they really are screwed if they continue down the same path, and then they choose not to work with you. So by getting from those, what we call the surface problems, what they really think is a problem, and digging deeper into what the root of the problem is, and kind of getting them out of their own way, because so many times they're just jeopardizing and sabotaging themselves by saying no. So getting them over that so that they realize they do need this, that they do need to work with you, and they're screwed if they don't. That's been the biggest thing for me, so that you can help these people.
What do you feel like, because if they're wondering, well, how do you do that? Because some people say, okay, I've heard that before. I know, you want to get to the deeper problems or the root of the problem, but how do you do that? What's the...
Before we would be like, all right, why are you here? Like, what's your problem? And they would tell us, we're like, all right, here's the solution. But now we go into, what are your real concerns? What are your frustrations? What are your challenges? What's stopping you? And then once they say it, you keep going with it. You keep asking them, because it isn't just that surface question, when can I retire? Do I have enough money? What's my number for retirement? It goes so much deeper than that. And just asking those simple questions and keep digging with those same questions really helps.
And one of the things you said I think is really important as well, and I think a lot of people do this in a sales conversation, is that they start to solve the problem. Someone says, oh, I want to retire, let's say, and the problem is I don't have enough cash flow, or I don't know how I'm going to do it, I don't have enough assets, whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, well, if you just did this, you start investing this way, and they start answering the question and telling them how. And then a lot of people, what objection do you typically get when you give the solution? Do you guys know? They usually say, I'll think about it, right? Or let me try what you taught me first. Like, let me try this on my own, and then we'll see. Maybe I'll let you know, right? Because what happens is if you fill them up with a solution, they're full. They think, okay, I better just go try this now that I have the solution, and now it's an excuse why they don't need to work with you right now. So if instead you can open it up and you can dig really deep and get to the real problem, and then instead of trying to solve it right then and there and say, oh, this is what you should do because I'm really good at what I do, so let me tell you how to do it. Instead, you go, well, what do you want? So you go from the frustrations or the pain into what they actually want. And we like to ask the question, well, if you can wave a magic wand, what would you like? And then they start dreaming, and guess what naturally happens? If you say, here's all the pain, all the bad stuff, right? And here's everything I want. If you can wave a magic wand, wow, imagine what it would be like. What's in between these two things? A big, fat gap. Gap, right? So if you talk about their problems and they go deep into them and talk about what they can have and what they want, there's a gap. And so the only way to close that gap is what? You. That's your job. So now instead of telling them the how to do it all, not because you're a jerk, because you don't want to tell them because God forbid you're going to tell them they're going to do it on their own. No, it's not that you don't want to tell them. It's that if you do tell them, they're not going to take action. That's their problem anyway. It's not the how. The how is not the problem. The problem is that they're not motivated to take action, or they're scared to take action. Their fear is in their way. So if instead you can say, okay, the solution is these guys, me. This is the solution, and this is how we would work together to solve this problem and close this gap. And then you can tell them this is what we would do together, but they need you. They can't do it without you. Right? So solving their problem in that meeting is not going to help. So that's what you did, and that's what you're doing, and that's what was allowed you to not only make more money, but also spend a lot less time with prospects.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And yeah.
So, I mean, I'd like to really dial in to understand this, like
Good.
what you were doing before
Mhm.
and what you're doing now that was different that enabled this transformation in your business. I'm still not dialed into the difference.
Great.
Sure. So originally, when people come into our
Oh, hold on one sec.
Sorry.
So the question is, what were you doing before, and what did you really do differently that dialed this in so that you got these results? Great question.
The traditional thing for advisors to do is when people come in your office, you have kind of a checklist, investment accounts, insurance, estate planning, and they give you all their statements, all their life insurance policies, all their insurance policies, and you kind of just go through it, and you're like, all right, you could do this. You kind of just give them some quick solutions. If you were to work with us, we'd invest this way, or you need some more life insurance. Here's that. So now we don't even look at any of that stuff in the first meeting. We just are having a conversation with them to really understand how they've been living with money, what they've been doing, what are their real concerns and fears are. And a lot of times, they don't even realize they have these underlying fears to be going with. But it's like, what if I run out of money in retirement and I have to live with my children? Stuff like that. They don't even think that way. But so we don't even look at any of their statements in that first meeting. And by the end of the meeting, they're pushing them at us so that we start working with them.
What I
Does
call
that answer your question?
So another way to look at it, I always say this in one of my trainings, I say stop selling a box. So the box, like as financial advisors, what they were selling were like the investment strategies, insurance, annuities, all the services, all the products, like that's the box. So if you have, I happen to only know your business, I haven't talked to anyone else, but I know their business, they're selling software, so that's the box. But people don't want the box. They don't want to buy the box. They actually want what's in the box. They want the result. And if you were to open that box and say, well, what's the real result that they want? Like, what's the gift at the end? They got the box, but that box is really going to get them the result. Well, in order to know what result they really want, you got to know what problems they really have. And so what they've done differently is to really understand, okay, let's I don't know what box is going to solve your problem. It's going to be a box. It's definitely a box because a box has to solve the problem, but I'm not sure exactly what box or how we're going to shape it. Is it going to be this size? Is it going to be this size? Is it going to be the size of a house? Like, I got to figure that out, customized to you. I know it's a box, but let's put the box aside right now so I don't just throw solutions at you, and instead figure out, well, what's the real problem? And that we call it FCC, so that's frustrations, concerns, and challenges. And you can simply say, what are your concerns? And then let them talk. What are your frustrations? What are your challenges? And that will allow them to open up, so then you'll know, okay, these boxes are going to be amazing. These boxes are going to be amazing. These are going to totally solve the problem, but you don't give them the box yet. They want the result. They want the result that the box is going to give them, right? So ultimately, when they're ready and you figure out, okay, so this is the result, this is the transformation that you want, got it. Now let me bring out this box and I'm going to put a bow on it, package it up really nice. I'm going to wrap it. Now it looks like what's called a package, right? Your package, which is your services or your products, in a nice way that's a great way and easy for them to buy. And then you give them the box. It's all structured and everything, and now they want it because it's going to give them the result. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. Good question. Thank you. Anyone else have a question before I keep going? Okay, cool. Tony.
Yes.
Negotiation man.
Yes.
What's another strategy that you can tell these guys as far as that would help them? You guys want to know more about closing more sales. This is the sales summit here, but are you more interested in right now from the man, Tony, about negotiation and closing the sale or more about the lead itself?
Yeah, closing.
Closing.
Okay.
Okay.
We've got the leads, how do you get them
Okay.
finalized?
Well, there's kind of what we were just talking, the selling the box. So there's, for the first time in history, we have, sales has been a lot of like kind of dinosaur age cliches. A lot of Zig Ziglar, fake it till you make it kind of things, and like, a lot of stuff hasn't really been based on like evidence and research. But now we have AI, artificial intelligence, that's entering in the sales world, and it's changing. So now we're getting evidence of what works and what doesn't work. And I'm actually working with a company out of Silicon Valley, and they've so far have posted. So they take phone conversations, and they send them through an algorithm. So they've done 30,000 telephone calls across a lot of different industries, and they put them through an algorithm, and they're able to start picking up on words, phrases, things that are being said, not being said, that are leading to wins, what they call wins, which are closes, or losses, which are the buyer's not buying basically. And what they've come up with a few different things, and I'm starting to incorporate this in my training. So one of the big things was talk to listen ratio, and I was appalled. They hooked me up to this algorithm, and they recorded my conversation with them, and I spoke 70% of the time in this conversation. 70%. So what they found was that bad salespeople, so people who weren't closing, were speaking between 65 to 75% of the time, meaning they were only listening 25% of the time. Top closers, top salespeople had a speak to listen ratio of 43% of listening, 57% talking. Okay, so in terms of closing, you definitely want to start shutting up. You want to start timing yourself. I start timing myself on the phone now. So that's one big thing, is speaking less, talking more. The second thing you want to start looking for is the selling the box. So a lot of people, they go into a sale, a pitch meeting, a sales meeting with a client, a customer, and they start selling the box or bragging about their company or about their services. Aristotle called this ethos, right? We're addicted to ethos. We want everyone to think we're credible. So how many years we've been in business and all the customers we've dealt with, but no one cares about that. So now moving back to AI, what they found is that when you start talking more than 2 minutes, and this is like in an hour conversation, if you start speaking more than 2 minutes in about yourself and your company, your chances of winning that sale decrease drastically. So what does that tell us? If you're getting on the phone with a client for 45 minutes to an hour, you want to speak less than 2 minutes about yourself and your company. Get the hell out of the credibility stage. People don't care. So
Can I just add
yes,
something to that?
Please, yes.
I feel like that's really, again, talking because these two are financial advisors and I come from that industry, but that, you asked about the distinction, but that was a huge distinction, I know, because I came from that industry, is what we learned in our sales training was like, tell them about you, or actually that's not true, tell them about the company. It's like, here's the company that's not even my company, right? So let me tell you about the company because you're associated to a company. Let me tell you about me. Let me educate you about the market or something, or why you must save now or you're totally screwed. And then it starts the questions of, well, and it wasn't even what do you want. It was more like your 1 to 5 year goals, your 6 to 10 year goals, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of upfront talking. And then people are also, when they're selling, they think they have to prove themselves. And they're like, let me tell you. And then they're being interviewed. So another great takeaway is that the person who has control of the conversation is the person asking the questions. And if you find that they're asking you the questions, then they have control over the conversation and you're further and further away from closing. So you have to be the one asking the questions. So otherwise you're basically being interviewed, right? And they're like trying to decide like, why should I hire you? When it should be the other way around. You want the upper hand to say, why should I let you be my client? Like, why should I bring you in as a client? Because you should be selective. When you ask the question, are you talking about like you have someone who's qualified and it's the urgency of closing, like they walk out and think about it, or is it more like you lose it? Like, what's the big problem that you're facing?
Our sales process is very slow. It's an expensive product, so people think about it for a long time.
Yeah, what's expensive?
It's expensive.
Like Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions?
Like, 5,000 average client,
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of hand-holding, it's a long process, we do data transfer and, massaging and loving of the client, each time. Yeah, so.
A lot of those.
There is this point at which they're looking and they do a demo or something like that, and then, there might be just, we talk to them and things like that, and maybe they just don't feel like they have the money right now, or whatever it is.
What do you feel like is the biggest?
Are they psychological tricks or anything like that?
Well, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge that you are solving? Like, what's the biggest problem you're actually solving? Because they don't care about the software. What do they actually want? What's the result that they actually want?
Organization and ease.
And if they had organization and ease, what would that actually give them?
Time.
Time. Okay, and if they had time in their business, then what would that give them for their business?
Their sales would increase.
Their sales would increase, and if their sales increase, they'd make more money. Okay, so ultimately what they really want from you is to make more money. How often in a sales conversation are you addressing that problem and telling them that's exactly the problem that you're solving?
I say that often.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So it happens a lot. Okay, cool. Is she your,
I'm sorry, we work together.
I know. But she's your top salesperson? Okay, cool.
I say that often
What's
because
up?
I came from a gallery that used the system, and literally I was a better employee because of the software that I used.
Gotcha.
And I noticed
So your
that
stories,
from-
yeah, stories sell. So my biggest advice that I could give you would be, actually I'm going to give you two pieces. One is to quantify the value. Because when you say it's expensive, like expensive is so relative. If an average client is worth to them like $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or even $1,000, if you could save them, basically, if they have to spend $5,000, they only need 5 clients, even at $1,000, to equate, to pay for itself, right? So I'm always looking at, like, as a business owner, I'm always looking at the ROI. Right? I want to know, am I going to get my return? Because otherwise it is expensive. If it's $100 and I don't get my return, it's expensive. If it's $5,000 and I make 10 grand, it's really inexpensive. I actually talk about this, again, in my new book. It's called Make More Money, Help More People. But I'm very excited about it because I talk about how, like, I hired a coach that I thought was expensive at first, but in the end, it cost me way less because it was finally a coach who got me results. Because the biggest expense to my business wasn't making money. And so when I finally hired a coach that actually made me money and I doubled and tripled and quadrupled my income, even though it cost me more dollars, it was way less expensive. So number one is quantifying the value. So what you need to do is ask the questions and dig as far as like, well, what is an average client worth to you? And how long does it take you to, let's say, maybe get that client if you're saying time is what's going to give them that? And how much time would be off your plate if you did do that? And then keep getting there, digging. We're swimming to the bottom of the ocean here to find out what's really going to drive them to say, okay, yeah, it's a no-brainer and it's not expensive because this is going to get me 5 clients, so I'm actually going to triple my money. That's one. And the second thing I would give you is urgency to your offer. There's got to be a reason to buy now. There's got to be a reason. So if you're not giving a discount, if you don't give bonuses, if there's no reason to buy now, the reason most often will be not yet. And they'll always choose to think about it because they don't have a reason to buy now. Okay? Anything else to add?
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 more things. Well, one of them is so I used to train buyers in procurement. So it's a in terms of negotiation, buyers are generally being trained, especially in 2007, 2008, when the economy went south. A lot of companies were smart and they started investing money in their procurement, in their buyers, to teach them competitive negotiation tactics, lower costs, and salespeople weren't getting trained. So it's a buyer's market right now. So buyers, and especially I train a lot of software companies, a lot of buyers have a playbook. There are things, there are tactics, competitive tactics that software buyers are being trained to use against salespeople because they work so well. So a very simple one, it's called the squeeze, and it's in every buyer's playbook. And salespeople fall for it every time. And it's basically a buyer says, we like you, we want to do business with you guys are fantastic, but you got to do something about that price. And that's the whole tactic right there. And the unfortunate thing is, most salespeople, they wind up doing something about that price because salespeople are generally very insecure about their own pricing. And they don't like their company's pricing. They're told no 100 times a day. They're told their pricing's too high 100 times a day. They're told their competition's cheaper 1,000 times a day. So salespeople are literally walking around this world like little Woody Allens. Oh my God, my pricing's so high. My pricing, I can't stand my pricing. And then all of a sudden, a buyer comes in and says, "We like you." Salespeople never hear that. "You like me? Come back to our office. We want to speak to you again. Come back on the phone." Oh my God, they're opening the door for me. This hardly ever happens. So the buyers say, "We like you. We want to do business with you." And they bring the salesperson right to the edge of certainty. You're almost there, and then they say, "But you got to do something about that price." And 80% of salespeople respond to that request with this. They say, "Where do you need me to be?" That's how 80% of salespeople respond to that. Where do you need me to be? What message are you sending that buyer when you say, "Well, where do you need me to be?" You're sending you're sending the wrong message, right? So there's countermeasures to that, right? There's countermeasures to that. One countermeasure is, it depends on what type of market. If you're in a very competitive, like banks, I'm training this bank, and they're very competitive. They're very transactional. It's all about price, 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 and they're dealing with very competitive buyers. So they need to get a little bit more competitive in their in the way they deal with tactics. So a countermeasure could be, I call it the flinch. Anybody ever heard of the flinch, the tactic of flinch? So I had a buyer once in one of my workshops who every time a vendor would come into his office and say, "This is our price," this buyer would take a pair of glasses. He would buy them by the box, like 100 to a box. He would take a pair of spectacles off his face and he would smash them on the ground in front of the vendor. That's a flinch. I believe the Italians invented the flinch, which is really, really big, but a flinch could be very small and subtle. So if a buyer says, "You need to do something about the price," you can say, "Whoa, what do you mean I need to do something about that price?" You find a soft version of that, right? By just putting up a little resistance. That's a big thing for salespeople. You need to start putting up a little bit of resistance. Start saying no, right? Start saying no a little bit more, and it works. Buyers love nibbling as well, especially in software. You get right to the end of the contract, you're about to shake hands, and they say, "Can you throw in this? Can you throw in that?" Or scope creep, right? So, again, saying, "Sorry, rules and regulations, say we can't do that. Our company policy is that we don't give free whatever they're asking for." Or and I would not advise using this with a customer, but like in real life, if somebody's trying to nibble off you, just these words: "Are you kidding?" To a non-professional nibbler, someone who doesn't nibble very often, "Are you kidding?" is the end of the road. Well, I guess I am kidding. I'm so sorry, right? So again, salespeople need to learn how to put up resistance and start saying no. And if they start saying no, they're going to realize two things. A, the buyer will back down a lot of the time, and B, you're actually getting more respect from the buyer. So, and I'll end this very quickly. If I'm selling a used car for $10,000, and the lowest I'm willing to take for it is, let's say, $6,000. It's a piece of junk. I want to get rid of this car. If you come in off the street, what's your name? Tanya. If you come in off the street, Tanya, and you offer me $9,700 for this car, in my head, I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what an amazing offer. I got to take this right away." A lot of salespeople will take it right away. But if I say yes to you too quickly, you might leave that negotiation feeling, "Why the hell did Tony say yes so quickly? Did I go in too high? Should I have gone in a little bit lower?" But if I say no to you first, "No, sorry, Tanya, I can't do $9,700, but then I call you up an hour later or the next day and say, "You know what, I had some time to think about it. I can do $9,700. You'll walk away a lot more satisfied because I put a little resistance up front. And when you're more satisfied, you're less likely to nibble on me, you're less likely to complain. The next time we negotiate, you're less likely to give me a hard time, dig your heels in, right? So there's a lot of kind of psychological tactics that we need to learn when we negotiate. And but the big thing I tell salespeople is just learn how to say no a little bit more.
Okay?
Yeah, really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also love the video idea that you mentioned before. I have some questions about that.
Sure.
One question that's buzzing in my mind is this negotiation piece that happens at the end. Maybe
Yes.
it does happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen. You just get an email saying, "Let's go," or you get a phone call, "Let's go." So you're not privy to that moment of decision. It just happens offline or away.
Yeah.
Question about long-term relationships, because you probably also coach or train buyers as well.
Yeah.
Buy strategically and know how to defend against countermeasures and all that sort of strategic stuff. But long-term relationship, you could win the battle and get the deal and get more money. But what I find is often if I sell lower than I like, I don't feel good about it. They don't really feel good about it.
Yeah.
The relationship doesn't last as long.
Yeah.
Same thing as if I buy too hard and I win too much.
Yes.
They don't feel good about it.
Sure.
And I'll sort of win for short term, long term, not so much.
Yeah.
So what is your philosophy about sort of the long-term relationship in negotiation?
Okay, quickly, come to
We only
my
have
workshop
2
tomorrow.
minutes.
Yeah, come to my workshop tomorrow, but very quickly, you're talking about zero-sum game. I win, you lose. I'm getting more slice of the pie than you. That's very good when you're buying a used Rolex or a used car, and in some industries, you're dealing with very kind of transactional competitive negotiations. You want to start getting into a creative negotiating, which is how do we make a better deal for both parties? And I'll give you one tactic that works very well. So you don't want to be a conceder anymore. So a lot of people are like a bowl of free candy. You know when you go to like a Chinese restaurant or a deli, you go to the cash register and there's a bowl of free candy. Most people will take like a handful of candy or take more than one. But if you put a 25-cent charge on each candy, no one's going to take any candy. So most people, when they're negotiating, are like that bowl of free candy. They give away free concessions all the time. Fine, I'll give you 10% off. Fine, I'll throw in free shipping. Fine, I'll do this. Fine, let's go to your parents' place in Tampa for the holidays. Okay, those are all free concessions because not once did I ask for anything in return. But if I say, let's go to your parents' place in Tampa for the holidays, if you allow me to go golfing with my buddies this summer, now I've attached a string. I'm trading with you. So I'll go to Tampa if you allow me to go golfing with my buddies. So whenever you're in a negotiation, don't ever give things away for free. Always be trading. So if they always be asking for things in return, fine, I'll do that for you, but you need to do this for me.
We call it promises and requests.
Yes.
So you basically make a promise and you ask for a request.
Absolutely.
I know we got to wrap up real quick. Last thing, because I know we didn't get to tell everybody about this, but Jess, can you just tell about your blog, where it was? Jess has a blog called Not Your Father's Advisor, and you had how many visitors before and how many now? We'd like to tell the world about that.
I had about in the fall 500, and the highest was a little over 11,000 the one week. I post once a week. So
500 to 11,000 on a blog. So if you want to know about blogging, come talk to Jess. And if you want to know about, I know you also increase your income at least
Yes, by about-
double or something?
by about 5,000 a month.
5,000 a month. Okay, so cool. All right, so give these guys a big hand and find them afterwards. Pick their brains.